I'm Harry Potter.
So it's true. I mean, do you really have the
what?
scar?
Oh.
Movies Inside Out presents Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is a fantasy adventure film from Warner Brothers Studio that premiered in the fall of 2001. The film was an adaptation of J.K. Rowling's first novel. It marked the beginning of an incredibly successful movie franchise that both children and adults never grow tired of revisiting. Because you can never get tired of happiness. In our new video, you'll learn about how the first movie in the iconic series was filmed. The creation story. The story of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone began in 1997, when British producer David Heyman, founder of Heyday Films, decided to work on a film adaptation of a popular children's book. Initially, the studio chose the novel The Ogre Downstairs by Diana Wynne Jones, published in 1974, but for better or worse, the producers failed to get the rights to the book. Meanwhile, the fantasy novel Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by first-time novelist Joanne Rowling has been published in the UK by Bloomsbury Publishers. According to one account, Heyman was directly told about the fascinating story by his colleague Tanya Sagacian after learning about it from a newspaper article. Another account says that Sagacian first shared her excitement with Heyman's assistant, who, after reading the book, persuaded her boss to review it. Despite not liking the title of the book, the producer decided to give Harry Potter a chance and decided to read a couple pages before bed. Heyman found it impossible to put the story aside, and he realized that he had discovered the perfect piece for his future film. Fortunately, Heyman had connections with Warner Brothers and soon presented the studio with his idea. The board didn't immediately sign off on the project, but Lionel Wigram, the studio's executive producer and Heyman's childhood friend, supported it and took on the responsibility of negotiating with Rowling to acquire the rights to not only the first book, but the next 3 installments as well. The writer was afraid that the filmmakers might spoil her story, but the Warner Brothers bosses promised her full control over the script and cast, and Joanne agreed to sell the rights for the rather modest sum of £1 million and certain royalties from box office receipts and sales.
This boy will be famous. There won't be a child in our world who doesn't know his name.
Exactly. He's far better off growing up away from all of that.
At first, the studio planned to create an animated series of films with Steven Spielberg as director because the producers didn't want to take on the responsibility of working with child actors over many years. Moreover, they wanted to fit the plot of all 4 books released at that time into one movie. But this option did not suit Rowling, who wanted her characters embodied by live actors in a series of feature films, and the producers were forced to agree to the conditions of the author. After Spielberg, a host of talented filmmakers competed for the director's chair, including Robert Zemeckis, Alan Parker, Rob Reiner, M. Night Shyamalan, and Peter Weir. J.K. Rowling wanted Terry Gilliam in the director's chair, but the studio rejected him because he had never worked on a children's movie. As a result, in March 2000, the producers chose Chris Columbus, who, first of all, had a successful experience working with young actors and their parents as a person who filmed the cult classic movie Home Alone. And second of all, he gave a lot of sound advice on the script and visual parts right at the interview. The screenwriter was Steve Kloves, who chose Harry Potter from a list of future screenplays sent to him by the studio. Fortunately, he quickly found a common ground with Rowling, who even allowed him to add dialogues to the story that were not in the book. Casting. In March 2000, the studio appointed casting director Susie Figgis to be in charge of casting the actors for the lead child roles. By then, the series of books about Potter's adventures was becoming widely popular with readers and critics. Unsurprisingly, many children wanted to be part of the magical story. More than 40,000 applications were received for the lead role alone.
Difficult, very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent.
However, J.K. Rowling immediately set a strict rule that all actors must definitely be British. For months, Figgis held auditions asking children to read a page from the book, an excerpt from the script, and improvise the arrival at Hogwarts scene. However, the search was unsuccessful, and the producers decided to consider actors from the United States after all. Among the candidates for the role of Harry was Liam Aiken, who had already worked with Columbus on the drama Stepmom, but Rowling remained adamant, and they had to turn down the actor. William Moseley, who later became famous for the Chronicles of Narnia franchise, was also considered for the lead role. After almost 6 months of auditions, the role of Potter was given to Daniel Radcliffe, who even before the official casting impressed the director with his work in the 1999 TV movie David Copperfield. However, Figgis felt that Daniel's mother, who also worked as a casting specialist, would not allow her son to be a part of the multi-year project. Fortunately, Columbus and Heyman were able to persuade the boy's parents, but disagreements with Figgis led to a resignation. By the way, Rowling was delighted with the director's choice of the lead actor and stated that there could hardly have been a better Harry.
Mr. Potter, our new celebrity.
Let's make note of the fact that some 15 years later, she would claim that Hermione wasn't even white. Sorry. Thomas Brodie Sangster applied for the role of Ron Weasley, but the filmmakers liked Rupert Grint more. He was cast thanks to a video in which he rapped about his desire to be a part of the movie and said he was perfect for the role of Ron due to his red hair. By the way, Tom Felton, who ended up playing Draco Malfoy, also applied for the roles of Harry and Ron. Meanwhile, the casting directors noticed Emma Watson completely by accident, not by her own volition, because she did not believe in her own abilities. Her school drama club teacher insisted that she should participate in the casting, and the girl agreed. Emma took the 5 stages of auditions with all seriousness and got the role of Hermione Granger thanks to her sense of humor and wit, beating out several thousand young candidates.
Look, stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
It should be noted that many of the child actors were quite different in appearance from the descriptions of their characters. For example, brown-haired Felton had to constantly bleach his hair, and James and Oliver Phelps, who played the Weasley twins, had to dye their hair red. However, Watson was never able to wear artificial teeth, which impaired her pronunciation, and Radcliffe's allergy to contact lenses caused movie Harry's eyes to turn blue instead of green, as they were in the book. Interestingly enough, while casting child actors, Chris Columbus paid a lot of attention to the child's relationship with their parents. He didn't want to repeat the Macaulay Culkin situation, who had a rather complicated relationship with his family, and as a result, his popularity exacerbated it. So the director felt it was important for the young actors to have strong support from their loved ones. After determining the performers of key child roles, in August 2000, the producers began casting adult actors. Earlier, J.K. Rowling stated that she could imagine only Robbie Coltrane and Maggie Smith portraying Rubeus Hagrid and Minerva McGonagall. Luckily, they accepted the offer and became the first actors to sign on for the project.
Never insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me.
Williams was also interested in the role of Hagrid, but he was an American and therefore did not fit Rowling's main role. The role of Severus Snape was originally claimed by Tim Roth, who was born in Britain and has lived in the United States since 1990. However, the actor preferred Tim Burton's sci-fi action film Planet of the Apes to filming in the Potter franchise. The producers then offered the role to Alan Rickman, whom Rowling approved without question. Curiously, Rickman knew the full story of his character even before the last book was published. Joanne decided to tell the actor the truth about Snape's relationship to Potter so that he could better understand the character's motivations and play him accordingly. The filmmakers originally saw Alec Guinness as Albus Dumbledore, but he passed away during the casting process. Then they chose Richard Harris, but it was very difficult to persuade him to star in the series of films. Time after time, the actor refused the producer's offer and was forced to give in only under the pressure of his 11-year-old granddaughter. The girl declared that if he didn't play Dumbledore, she would stop talking to him. Rowling's demand to cast only British actors was overall fulfilled, but it wasn't without minor discretions. So Richard Harris and Fiona Shaw, who played Miss Dursley, are Irish. By the way, the writer later clarified that apart from the British, it is okay to cast Irish actors. I believe she was personally standing at the entrance during casting, checking people's IDs. Also, joining the cast are several Americans: Zoe Wanamaker, who played Madame Hooch, Vern Troyer, who portrayed the goblin Griphook, and Eleanor Columbus, the director's daughter, who appeared in a cameo as Susan Bones. By the way, Joanne Rowling was offered the small but symbolic role of Harry's mom, Lily Potter. However, the writer refused because she doubted her acting ability, and the role eventually went to Geraldine Somerville. The filming process. The filming of Harry Potter began in September 2000 in the pavilion of Leavesden, a huge studio complex just outside of London, the site of a former aircraft factory and airfield. Curiously, the movie's set occupied almost the entire studio space for 10 years, and was even used in some films such as Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, and Sherlock Holmes. By the way, after the end of filming all Harry Potter movies, Warner Brothers bought the studio and in 2012 opened an attraction dedicated to the franchise, which now houses most of the sets, costumes, and props. But of course, the filming took place outside the studio as well. So, for example, the place from where the characters went to the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was King's Cross Station. Later, they installed a jammed cart in one of the walls, and everyone is welcome to take pictures next to it. Canterbury Cathedral was considered as the main location for Hogwarts, but its dean refused the studio because magic and witchcraft conflicted with Christianity. As a result, the main filming locations were Alnwick Castle and Gloucester Cathedral. The decision to film in the latter caused a public outcry, and local residents threatened to prevent the film crew from entering the cathedral. However, when the filmmakers arrived at the site, they saw only one protester. A lot of the scenes of Hogwarts students' everyday routine were filmed in Gloucester, but in order to do so, the production designers had to hide a lot of modern details such as switches and door locks, as well as religious symbolism. The grounds of Alnwick were used to film broom flying lessons and Quidditch competition scenes, during which the actors were attached to cranes to create the illusion of flight.
I felt the same way before my first game.
What happened?
I don't really remember. I took a bludger to the head 2 minutes in. Woke up in hospital a week later.
Great Hall scenes were filmed in the dining hall of Christ Church, one of Oxford University's largest colleges, founded in the 16th century. In addition, Oxford had several other suitable locations. The Faculty of Theology became the hospital wing, and the reading room in Duke Humphrey's library became the Hogwarts Library. Interestingly, the look of the school was a figment of the imagination of production designer Stuart Craig. His sketches were converted into architectural drawings and then into a full 3D model. Also, during her first meeting with Craig in 1999, Rowling drew him a detailed map of the school and its surroundings, and the production designer was careful to make sure the locations matched the writer's vision. Most of the filming of the corridors and some of the classroom scenes took place in Durham Cathedral, as well as in the classrooms of Harrow School. Picket Post Close in Bracknell, Berkshire became Privet Drive, but the studio later decided it was much more cost-effective to build it in a pavilion. A similar thing happened with the set of Diagon Alley. It was the Leadenhall Indoor Market, but most of the scenes were shot in the studio anyway. Meanwhile, The Forbidden Forest was filmed in Black Park in Buckinghamshire, 20 miles from London, which often appears in the movies due to its gloominess and eerie vibes. The scene in which Harry accidentally sets a snake on Dudley was filmed at the London Zoo, and the Australian Embassy building in London was turned into Gringotts Bank. Since in the US release, the stone belonged to a sorcerer rather than a philosopher, all scenes where it was mentioned had to be filmed twice in order for the actors to say the right word. The fact is that the American audience wouldn't associate the word philosopher with magic. By the way, the Philosopher's Stone, according to Rowling, was supposed to resemble an uncut ruby, and to give the plastic prop a decent look, it was illuminated with a light bulb.
The Sorcerer's Stone is a legendary substance with astonishing powers. It'll transform any metal into pure gold and produces the elixir of life, which will make the drink immortal.
Curiously, most of the scenes with the main characters were shot in chronological order. This way, the director wanted to help the young actors to better feel their characters. The only exceptions were the final scene at the train station, the scene on platform 9 3/4, and the Quidditch game scenes. The movie's visuals did involve CGI. There are more than 600 shots with special effects in the movie. For example, the three-headed dog Fluffy was computer generated, but there was a physical replica of one of his paws so that the characters could really push it back. CGI was also used to create the mountain troll, and Radcliffe didn't even participate in the fight scene with him. The actor's face was added to the frame with the help of computer animation. Also, only one flight of moving stairs at Hogwarts was real. The rest of the staircases moved via digital processing. According to Chris Columbus, one of the most difficult and exciting scenes was the scene of playing giant chess. A huge board and 11 feet high chess pieces were real. The statues were moved by remote control, but this process required considerable effort given their height and weight. Virtually all the birds in the film were also real. The trainers taught them to fly in the right direction and to carry letters, which were deliberately made of very thin and light paper so that the birds could easily hold them. Curiously, Harry's owl Hedwig was played by 4 different birds. And you can thank the Oscar-winning John Williams for the incredible soundtrack. However, the job was originally offered to the equally famous James Horner, who became famous for Titanic. But Horner turned down work on Potter to focus on the soundtrack for A Beautiful Mind, saying he wanted to be a part of an art project, not a commercial one. Movie mistakes and errors. As with any movie, Harry Potter is not without minor inconsistencies and serious mistakes. One of the most common errors in the movie is the abrupt change in the position of objects and characters in different shots of the same scene. For example, in the scene when Harry was assigned to Gryffindor, Hermione was sitting across from him and Ron and Percy were sitting next to him. In the very next scene, Hermione is next to him and Ron is across the table. When Harry is in the restricted section of the library, he places the lamp to his left and the cloak to his right. But in the next scene, when he hears Filch's voice, Harry grabs his cloak and the lamp falls to the floor because it turned out to be on the cloak. Also, on the Hogwarts Express, during Harry and Ron's first meeting with Hermione, her tie is situated either straight or off to the side, and the spot on Ron's face changes shape. During his introduction to Hagrid, Harry's t-shirt sits flat or hangs off his left shoulder. Even the scar on Harry's forehead changes its position throughout the movie. And in the scene where the troll holds him upside down by his leg, the scar disappears altogether. Dudley eats Harry's birthday cake with his hands, but when he turns around frightened with a pigtail, both his mouth and hands are completely clean. In the same scene, Hagrid was portrayed not by Robbie Coltrane, but by former rugby player Martin Bayfield. Thanks to his height of 6'7", he replaced the main actor in the wide shots, towering above the rest of the characters. At the end of the movie, when Harry leaves Hogwarts, Hagrid seems to be taller or shorter than the train. In one scene, Ron finds himself drenched in Fluffy's saliva, but after a couple of moments, he's completely dry. In Diagon Alley, Harry and Hagrid often pass by the same carts and shop windows, and on their way to Hogwarts, you can spot a recurring hill and a lake outside the train window. During the battle with Voldemort, Harry got a few scratches on his face. Later, when Dumbledore visits him in the hospital, the scratches disappear, but during the feast, Harry once again has a scratch on his chin. The movie contains factual errors as well. When Harry watches the teachers wearing his invisibility cloak, you can see that he is looking at them from the bottom up, but in the footage shot from his point of view, they all appear to be on the same eye level. And when Harry interacts with a snake at the zoo, it blinks, but that's impossible since snakes don't have eyelids. Also, all magical owls would surely attract unwanted attention from muggles, since in the regular world, owls are quiet nocturnal animals and can rarely be seen during the day. In the scene where Hagrid bends Vernon's gun, the shot blows a huge hole in the roof, but the house is still dry despite the downpour outside. Moreover, a bent gun wouldn't be able to fire at all, and the bullet would explode in the barrel. There are also some obvious anachronisms in the movie. For example, the movie takes place from 1991 to 1992, and one of the newspapers says 2001. Also, Hagrid picks up Harry on his birthday, July 31st, and then takes him to the train station to arrive at Hogwarts the next day, even though classes don't start until September 1st. Deleted scenes, bloopers. In addition to the standard 152-minute theatrical version, there is a 159-minute extended version that was televised in 2004 and released on DVD in 2009. It featured a few interesting scenes that didn't make it into the final cut. For example, the audience was able to see how the Dursleys, before the arrival of the letters from Hogwarts, prepare Dudley for admission to the prestigious school and take pictures of him in his new school uniform. And then, Petunia dyes his old uniform gray so that Harry can wear it. She also discovers messages from Dumbledore hidden in egg cartons, but hides them from Harry. There was a peculiar scene cut from the final version in which Harry and Hagrid are riding in an ordinary London subway, and the giant talks about his desire to have a dragon. Also, the scene of the first potion lesson was much longer. In it, Snape gives Harry the answers to all the questions he asked him. They also cut the brief but important scene after defeating the troll, in which Harry, Ron, and Hermione realize they have become true friends. The extended version features a scene saturated with Christmas cheer, in which a saddened Harry ponders what he's seen in the Mirror of Erised, and Ron tries to distract him. They also filmed an interesting large-scale scene in which the trio discovers Nicholas Flamel's name on a magic card, and this leads them to think about the whereabouts of the Philosopher's Stone. At the same time, Neville Longbottom is tormented by a spell cast on him by Draco Malfoy. And of course, filming was often interrupted by the unrestrained laughter of actors who couldn't say their lines right the first time.
Harry Potter can't tell you how pleased I am to meet you. See if we can stay inside. Not that you need days, but on you go, little scamp.
You're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
You do it then if you're so clever. Go on.
Okay, shot and board. Okay.
He's gone? Now? But this is important. This is about the Philosopher's Stone.
Rupert Grint was particularly notable, often requiring several attempts to pull off a successful take.
Cut. I'm sorry to confuse you.
According to him, people called him Go Again Grint on set. Worldwide recognition. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone had its world premiere on November 4, 2001 at the Odeon Leicester Square Cinema in London, with the cinema arranged to resemble Hogwarts School. The film was released worldwide on November 16 and became the biggest release in the UK and US at the time. Critics were skeptical of the project while it was still in production, but after the premiere, most people's opinions changed for the better. There were also those who criticized the movie for overly pompous music, low-quality visual effects, and uninteresting cast. However, the audience didn't seem to notice the flaws. The movie was an incredible success at the box office, grossing about $975 million on a production budget of $125 million, plus $40 million for marketing, and eventually became the highest-grossing film of the year.
Hey, Harry, you're famous.
But why am I famous, Hagrid? All those people back there. How is it they know who I am?
I'm not sure I'm exactly the right person to tell you that, Harry.
The incredibly successful film was followed by the production of many video games, toys, and candy themed around the magical world of the movie. Harry Potter earned 3 Oscar nominations for Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Score. It was also nominated for 7 BAFTA Awards and 9 Saturns, one of which went to Judianna Makovsky for Best Costumes. Daniel Radcliffe received a nomination for the MTV Channel Award for Breakthrough of the Year and also earned $1 million for his work on the film. The Young Actor Awards honored the work of Emma Watson and Rupert Grint, while the latter also won the Satellite Award for Outstanding New Talent. However, their fees were much lower at only $125,000 each. By the way, the director Chris Columbus made $10 million plus a percentage of the box office. Obviously, the roles in such a large and successful project opened the way for the young actors to the movie industry, but the audience still associates most of them with the wonderful world of Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe managed to avoid the fate of a one-hit wonder actor. He successfully showcases his talent portraying a wide variety of characters in movies of various genres. Emma Watson has also managed to break out of her usual character by starring in several notable films. However, she now focuses on environmental activism and the rights of women and minorities. Rupert Grint more often appears in minor roles in TV shows. Chris Columbus started a truly magical franchise on which several generations of children around the world have grown up, providing it with a wonderful cast, unique style, and atmosphere.
There, Hagrid. It's not really goodbye after all.
Do you like the Harry Potter movies?